From what I have been told, Dave avoided by doing that conversation the continuance of a massive error in action and judgment that threatened to wreck the future of his prospects of getting a timely deal done. A timely deal done in Las Vegas. All right. You would say, what did he do? Well, what happened was that he went, Dave Kaval did, to the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority to seek the counsel of Stephen Hill. And he did that successfully. But in doing so, he jumped over the standard process of who you contact in Las Vegas, and who you work with to get a large-scale public-private project off the ground. You don't go first to the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority and for that kind of project, and the reason you don't is very simple. They are regarded by the casino people as the public sector organization that taxes them and has their money and helps build conventions using that public money that competes against them. And so for Kaval to go first to the Las Vegas Stadium Authority essentially screams, hey, I'm going to do this as a public deal. I'm not going to have the casinos directly involved, and therefore I will not have casino input regarding partnership or design. That's the message he sent, unintentionally. Now, does it sound ridiculous? Of course it does. But you have to remember, every city has its little, not so little, political idiosyncrasies. That's one about Las Vegas. And the way Dave has gone about this underscores something that actually a member of the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority said to me when I was there for the NFL draft, in that Dave Kaval doesn't have a champion, whereas Mark Davis had Sheldon Adelson, right, to steer him through the political muck and mire and get him the deal that he seeks, and know enough of legislation, enough of the legislators to be able to understand how to unlock the monies that are needed to get the deal done. And so the problem is that he's looking at, Dave is messing with, and I think it's fair to say it just like that, messing with the governor of Nevada that's not only running for re-election, but is fearful of being perceived of steering public money toward the ballpark, but at the same time, he doesn't want it to look like he doesn't want the ballpark. You understand? He's walking a fine line. Why? Because of the pandemic and how it's wrecked Las Vegas economy and called for incredibly giant need for affordable housing. And so basically the same rules apply. If Dave wants to get the deal done, and as I think about it, he's going to need to build affordable housing there too, I think. That will gain him a whole new set of political allies as I explain this. But I partially digress. Where he was headed also sent the signal that, hey, you're going to seek a bond issue through the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, which is, as you can read here, funded solely by the room tax paid by visitors to our destination, as I say, and that they receive no revenue from any other source, including local residents. Now, when I made this remark to the Las Vegas Stadium Authority, and the Las Vegas Stadium Authority does not have to go through the state. I meant the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, not the Las Vegas Stadium Authority. Las Vegas Stadium Authority benefits from a stadium hotel tax of 1/8 of 1% off the same base. But it did that through the state. But Dave was doing what some perceive to be an end run around the state by going to the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. Just want to clear that. Because it draws for its bonding capacity on its gigantic hotel tax base that allows it to essentially get its seed corn from one of the largest collections of hotel rooms in the entire world. Okay? The entire world. It's very powerful. And so, Kaval, rightly, from his perspective, I think Dave, from a calculation standpoint, Dave was right. From a political calculus standpoint, Dave was wrong. Okay? And so, but here's the thing. He sought to correct his error, and he did so. And there is a reason why Dave is still active in Las Vegas, and I believe that they are quite literally holding on to see what happens with this election. They don't want to make a move in Oakland at all, given the way things are going, other than procedural, until they know the Las Vegas situation is fully closed. Right now, it's this way. And you have to remember, Dave is not the one calling the shots positively. He's working for a Republican donor, John Fisher, and quite possibly another Republican donor, a gigantic big kahuna by the name of Phil Ruffin, who, according to Reef Khatib, if you know Oakland, you know Reef Khatib, legendary creator of the African American Sports Hall of Fame in Oakland, who told me by email that, hey, Zinni, it's like 4 days ago. Hey, Zinni, cab driver says that they're going to build a ballpark right over there at Las Vegas Festival Grounds. Ooh. When it gets to a point in Las Vegas where you have cab drivers calling it out, that's when you know something is headed toward a place where it's going to be real. That's from experience, all right? And cab drivers know when at that point, there's real stuff going on. There is a reason that just yesterday, Dave Kaval solved a gigantic political problem threatening to damage his ability to get a deal done in Las Vegas. All right? And he's now talking with the right people. Which is now Thursday when that occurred, and today is Saturday. Parallel paths. Parallel paths. Why parallel paths? Again, because Oakland slow rolled this program out because it didn't understand what it was doing, whereas in Las Vegas, there's opportunity to get something done much faster, comparatively speaking. All right? Comparatively speaking. And on top of all of that, to put a bow on this situation, we have the mayor of Oakland approaching October, November, and December, and that's it. October, November, December, and that's it. The Athletics don't know who the next mayor will be. I don't know who the next mayor is going to be. You don't know who the next mayor is going to be. We have ranked choice voting. We can get anybody, literally, the way ranked choice voting works. We can get anybody. So you can't, in ranked choice voting, assume that because one person's the front runner, that they will remain that and become mayor. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Don Parada ran for mayor of Oakland. This is back in 2010, first year we had like ranked choice voting. Don got the majority of first place votes. But here was the catch, big catch. And John Russo, who was then my friend, who's now in London having vacation, but he's my city attorney then. He and I were doing our show. We always did a show in his office. And he said, Don Parada is going to be mayor, as it looks right now. Because in ranked choice voting, you go through your first choice, second choice, third choice, and there's a kind of a sinking formula that's applied to it, in a recursive sinking formula, okay? And so that recursive sinking formula had not kicked in. And so John said, you have Rebecca Kaplan and Jean Quan, and Jean Quan has by far the most second place votes. But the only way she's going to get in is, as it looks right now, is if she gets over 75% of them. And he said, and that ain't going to happen. He said that on the video, and that ain't going to happen. Well, guess what happened the next day? So John called and he goes, Zinni, take that video down. I was wrong. I said, no, you're a genius. You called it. That's what happened. That's how we got Jean Quan. Totally out of the blue. When it was expected by everybody. Hey, it was our first year ranked choice voting, right? That Don Parada was going to be the mayor of Oakland. Didn't happen, and that's why. Because Councilmember Kaplan and Councilmember Quan, she was District 4, Libby's predecessor, had, because Libby was District 4 council member after her, had a deal. They went around town saying, vote for her, you're number 2, vote for me, number 1, and vice versa. And it worked. That's precisely what happened. That kind of teaming work. It's perfectly legal. That's what happened. So I spend time explaining that to get you to realize how iffy the situation is. So Dave has 2 uncertainties. He has the Oakland uncertainty regarding the election and the Las Vegas uncertainty regarding that election there. So, hey, but Dave is not going to say, well, gee, I'm just going to wait for the election. All right? He's not saying that. He's too savvy to say that. But the reality is he has to. That's the reality. He has to see what the situation looks like in both areas. Now, partisan A's fans would rightfully say, well, gee, heck with Las Vegas. Why doesn't he just simply deal with Oakland, make sure he's, got his contributions evenly spread through all the people running and go from there, right? But there's a reason for that. Because of the length of time it has taken to get this project done in Oakland parlance. That's the problem. And the fact that they only have so much money. That's the problem. And it's a big problem, okay? And the fact that you have Las Vegas sitting over there, which has shown a hunger and desire to bring sports in, and theoretically at least presents a viable alternative market to be in. I did say viable alternative market, something I would not have said 5 years ago.